Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hello, everybody.
What's up, guys?
Hello.
Welcome to the 90th Recovery Freedom Rising podcast for the second time. I'm Milan Starcic with co-hosts Andrew Norman and Austin M. I'd like to start off by saying happy one-year birthday, Austin.
Congratulations, big dog. That's
Man,
huge.
you just
buddy.
climbed a mountain, and we're grateful that you came and celebrated that with us here today.
Miracle, man. It's a miracle.
Yes. It is literally a miracle, and I'm so grateful you're willing to share that with us today. Could you tell everybody out there a little bit about yourself, Austin?
Yeah, hi, I'm Austin McNeil, 28 years old. I'm living in Kelowna. I started my journey 1 year ago today. Went to Options Wellness Center. Very beautiful, magical place. Definitely showed me a new way of living. I was in active addiction for roughly since I was like 16, 17 years old. That's when it like first began. And over time, it just kept progressing, getting worse and worse. And I didn't know why I was like that for so long. But I know it got to a point where I was basically just killing myself very aggressively the past like year or before I came into recovery, like that prior year. And it just got worse and worse. And eventually I was like, I need some serious help or else I'm going to die. So grateful I found recovery, and Options showed me the way, and just continued to use the toolkit that they gave me and, be open-minded, honest, and willing to do whatever it took to live this beautiful life now. So.
Shout out to Options. Like anybody looking for a good treatment center in BC or Alberta want to come on over. Options saved my life. This smiling guy here celebrating his 1 year went to Options. Andrew's heard the story of a couple Options people on here. Ain't nothing wrong with no treatment center. That's all I gotta
Go there.
say.
Go there.
Don't fear awesomeness. It's like a crash course in recovery and just learning a new way to live.
I dare you to do it.
And so I ask the same question of everybody with their first time on. So Austin, what was the pivotal moment the program sparked a recovery fire in your heart?
Pivotal moment. Well, I guess right before I accepted help, I was like, found out a lot of stuff that happened and like people that I thought were like my friends and stuff. And then really kind of hit my lowest of the low and went on a bender of no sleep. And I had people trying to call me, get a hold of me, and they were worried that I overdosed and died. And I had my buddy slamming the door at my place because he couldn't get a hold of me. And then I answered it and told him that's when I needed serious help and was willing. I was like, I needed something to change because whatever I was doing was not working. So I was really kind of willing to do whatever it took and just open to trying something new. And Options, went into Options. I was obviously nervous, anxious, didn't know what to expect. And then once I was listening to everything, like really listening, soaking it all in, that was like a pivotal point for me. I'm like, oh my God, like figuring out like why I'm acting this way, like understanding it. And then like that thing on the board that says whatever you focus on becomes greater.
Boom, my favorite thing in the universe.
Yeah, that was like I saw that like every day. So I just kept seeing it. And then once I really read it, I'm like, oh my God, like I was focusing on the negative shit in my life or negative stuff in my life, like throughout my whole life, like never the positive things, never never the positive things. So I was like, why can't I just flip that? So, like writing out positive affirmations really helped. I remember I got my three. I still have them on my bathroom mirror here. I got the first three from Susie, and um, yeah, she wrote these ones down. It says, "I am a good person. I deserve to be happy, and I am worthy." And so I lit those on the mirror and said that out loud every day, and it just really, basically, just starting to believe it more and more. And I now I got a year of recovery. It's feel way more confident in my abilities and who I am as a person, and just continue to keep growing one day at a time. So yeah,
That sign changed my life. Like
yeah,
seriously, in fact, I always sat so I could look at that sign as part of my day. It was kind of like one of my affirmations. And I've talked about that sign on the show a ton of times. Like Andrew's like pretty much seen
Bro,
the sign in his mind.
so I have to interrupt now because I've heard so much about this damn sign. First off, they must put some kind of secret sauce on that thing that like brings addicts in, and there must be something going on, and I must see this sign. I got to see it for myself
I got to take a
because
picture of it.
obviously there's something going on with that thing because I need to see it. I need to see it. It's funny. I hear about it all the time.
very powerful.
It taught me that I can either focus on my addiction or be looking at my recovery. You
Yeah,
know,
It's very
like
simple, very simple, very
you're
awesome.
never looking two ways at once, really. You know, and reframing life like that, it's kind of what we have to do. It's really easy. I think it's effortless to get yourself a negative thought, but sometimes it takes some work to actually see that gratitude.
Yeah.
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 Okay, I'm going to roll into the first questions. And so, Austin, the first year of recovery teaches us that courage isn't loud. It's the quiet choice to show up again and again, no matter how heavy the day feels. What helped you keep showing up even when you didn't feel ready or strong
During my recovery.
in this last year at any
Yeah,
point?
yeah. So when I first got out, I only did 30 days in options. Um, and I know that there was like a low rate of people, um, being successful for only going for 30 days. But in my mind, I was like, well, I'm not going to be those people. I'm going to be the one that's in that low percentage. So I didn't want to worry about the negative part. I wanted to focus on the positive part. Like, oh, I can do this. So what I did is just attended as many meetings as possible, like two, maybe three a day. Um, I use the gym a lot. Really, that helps me like tame my mind and just get out all this extra energy that I had. Um, and so yeah, I went to the gym a lot. I found my sponsor first meeting outside of treatment right away, and he just said something that resonated with what like Shirley said in treatment, and that was very beneficial. And I kind of just knew. Sometimes you just know these things. It's pretty wild. And yeah, I just kept. I took time off work and just really focused on recovery. Did my step work, and it felt like I wasn't like chasing to like get back into like more life. It just kind of just happened naturally, like over time, just trusting the process and stuff, and just kept growing and growing and growing. Because I look back when I first started to where I am now, it's like okay, now I'm taking on a lot more like more business and stuff, but also still staying connected with my recovery. Um, saying all these good things and listening to like other perspectives too. Like my cousin, he helped me. He's got like 4 years of sobriety, and he's like a life coach slash trainer. So I've been connected with him and just surrounding myself with like-minded people instead of like the people in my past. That's really kind of like I recognize that kind of like dragged me down, and I kind of just look for validation from other people, trying to be accepted by other people in the past, and it just I just lost myself along the way. So now I'm just trying to be my authentic self and just attracting the people that accept me for me. So that's basically yeah, I just keep plugging away one day at a time and just living in the present moment, basically. So
Oh yeah, man.
That was beautiful, man. I'm Mr. Andrew N. Unconditional lover. The first year of recovery teaches us that courage isn't loud. It's the quiet choice to show up again and again, no matter how heavy the day feels. And I'll just kind of reframe it. What helps you to keep showing up when you don't feel strong or ready?
Well, I first have to say, congratulations, man. That's huge, man. That first year is a tough. It's tough. It's the most crucial. And I'm just going to give an overview of my thing on the first year before I answer your question real quick. It's the most, it's your most vulnerable time. It's the most crucial year of this process if you want to stay clean long term.
Yep.
I mean, by far, this is where you build that foundation. Um, and you can't build a house on sand, Austin. There's a lot of planning that goes into building a foundation on a house. If you think about like a house in general, like as soon as that house is built, it starts falling down. But like there's so many things that go into planning that house and even the plot on which it's built on, right? We got to think of our bodies as like that plot, right? There's so much planning that goes into whether it's even buildable on, is it too wet? Is it too dry? Can we get machines up there to build to dig out that foundation? And then we got to get all the subcontractors that are going to go in there and do the actual foundation. It's different contractors that we have to, contract to go in there and pay to go in there and do that work, right? And then we have to do research on what contractors we get in there if we want to have a nice house built. A lot of work goes into that.
Yep.
You don't just stop using drugs. You're not just like, hey, I stopped using drugs and here we go. I'm back. Look, I got 30 days out of treatment center and I'm ready to get my job back, ready to get everything back that I had. It doesn't work like that.
No.
And you realize that real quick, man, because when I got out of rehab and they threw me back out into this painting that I just walked out of 30 days ago, and I had to like piss or get off the pot, man. I had to either go back to doing the old way of thinking and going back to that old easy way of doing things, or get into meetings, right? My God, my understanding kind of hit me on the back of the head and took me to meetings. And
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for that, right? And that kind of starts that journey. But a lot goes into that first year of recovery, man. It's when Milan hit me with this topic and he told me about today. A lot of emotions kind of came over because, man, we're feeling those feelings hard that first year, Austin. You're feeling them feelings hard. And you start to learn that feelings aren't facts, but it's a fact that we feel kind of thing, right? Like we're going to feel them.
Yep.
And you learn, you have to, at least I did, you have to learn that this too shall pass. And I know all these cliche ass fucking things that you hear and it's like, man, I didn't like them, but now I live by them.
Yeah.
Because they're so simple and they're so easy and so spiritual when you get tapped in, and it really has a way of taking you out of your head, because my head is not, my brain is not my best friend, right? It's like that neighborhood I don't want to get caught in, and I don't know how to get out of it, and I don't know how I have any way to defend myself. And so it's how we do that. You hit on meetings. They say, man, when I was in rehab, they said 90 meetings in 90 days. And I laughed at those people. I was like, you expect me to go to 90 meetings in like 100 meetings, 100 days? Like it seems such an insurmountable task to me. And bro, I go to so many meetings, like 90 meetings in 90 days is a joke to me right now. Like people that go like, I'm doing a 90 and 90. I'd be like, bro, I've been doing that for 3 years. And plus that, like I'm doing, man, and I'm not tooting my own horn. It's just where I've got to be right now. And it's how I have thrown myself into service. I'm of service at 4 to 5 different home groups. I host at 4 to 5 different home groups. I'll be hosting the 3 p.m.er out of Alberta at 5 o'clock this afternoon. Just being of service. Service work keeps you clean, especially in that first year. It gets you acclimated to living life again. And it gets you uncomfortable in a controlled setting almost, right, Austin? And it gets you ready to get maybe that new job or to start something fresh. And it gets you around other addicts who have struggled with what you're struggling with, while you're getting hope from them, while giving hope out. And it just builds that confidence that we're looking for. We're looking for confidence. So the 90 meetings in 90 days, and they say the rest will work itself out. That's where it's kind of like you see all these spiritual principles, and you see bad things happen, you see good things happen in real time. You see forgiveness happen. You see people get over stuff, and you see people love each other. We love each other. We love the hell out of each other in these meetings. And love and hope, only 2 spiritual principles out of the 100 plus that we have that we can actually give to each other. So that's what we do in these meetings. And that's what I felt when I was early on in this thing. And I'm actually coming up on 3 years in like a week. I think I have
Nice.
a week and I'll have 3 years. And so like I'm right there with you, man. This is one of those hairy times for me. And I don't know if you felt this either. If you've ever heard of this, it's called PMS, pre-medallion syndrome. When you come up to that every year, it shit gets a little hairy. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to throw that on you, but if you've been feeling some things the past week or two, that shit is real, man. Look, and I don't, and I'm on top of my recovery game, but every year about this time, shit gets a little wonky for me. And just really be careful with that, and know coming up to your next year, or you come up on these big milestones, because you're at a year, so you're going to hit another milestone at 18 months. Like on that milestone and that too, just be cautious going into it. That you got to lean into your program, because shit gets wonky, and there's no reason, there's no rhyme, reason, or anything for it. It's called PMS. You can even talk about it in your meetings. Pre-medallion syndrome, man, it's real. Shit's real.
Yeah.
So,
No.
so yeah, I didn't want to run on too much, man. I could go on forever. I got so many things, getting a sponsor, working the steps. There's so many things that you can do. New people and playmates and playgrounds, all that thing, building a new routine. So we'll get into that as we get on through this podcast. So
I love that. You know, I thought my first birthday, I was like, I was gonna have a fucking parade. I was like, the world's gonna stop, the town, be like, ticker tapes, balloons, fireworks. One of my dogs died. Like
oh
it was just like fucking. I just had
man,
shit thrown at me. It was like, oh yeah, you think you got some recovery? Let's test you out today, boy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah, man.
And like and I realized I was like, okay, like this is literally my birthday gift. Making it through a day like that, and substances not being my solution. Like it was. I realized that, that was one of the times where it's like the universe doesn't give you what you ask for. It gives you the option to show you have the strength for what you desire.
Yeah.
Like you
Nope.
want acceptance. Here's a test of acceptance. You want serenity. Here is chaos, and
Watch what
find
you
your
pray for. Watch
yeah,
what you pray for.
yeah, exactly. And because it's going to show up in the form
Yep.
of work.
Yep.
It's going to show up in the. So like,
Yep.
what helped me keep showing up even when I didn't feel ready or strong? Man, Austin, you mentioned it, man. You got the gift of desperation that turns you around right there.
Yeah.
And like I'm telling you, that gift is the gift that just keeps on giving for me. Like right through my recovery till now, it's just like I want this. I don't want that. Why? Because that was desperately hellacious at the end. Like that was the most undelicious thing. It's eating turds, smelling like boogers. Like I don't want them.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, for me, it really was that this was such a more soul satisfying, pleasant alternative than anything I had ever gone through with my addiction. Because
Yeah.
every single thing that I latched onto, whether it was alcohol, whether it was acid, whether it was cocaine, whether it was peyote, whether like whatever drug that it was, it just incrementally diminishing returns and ended up with some sort of negative consequence. Like none of it was like, I'm way healthier now. I'm
Oh,
I'm feeling
No,
like
it's
my
him. It's him. It's him.
relationships, that just, yeah, it was me. I could tell because
If he
both
ever
you
does
guys
that, we just go right through it, and he pumps
yeah.
right back.
Well, that's the thing. It records up onto the cloud. So everybody's feed is going to go in different. So just roll with it. If I like
Mhm.
get all gnarly and pause, just make fun of me.
I
But
will. We will.
yeah. So anyway, I
Just
think that wraps me up on that question. But now, Austin, do you got a question you could ask Andrew?
yeah. How do you remind yourself to not get like complacent throughout like the long term of recovery? Like just
that's a, that's a great question, man. It's great complacency.
You
Man.
got to say it. You got to say it. Say it.
I was gonna say if you haven't no so when I start getting complacent, right? And my sponsor will notice when I'm getting complacent, and he'll hit me up, and he's got this way of saying it. He'll be, when I'm dealing with complacency, he says, "Come place that ass in the seat." Doesn't
Yeah.
that isn't that the same word? Look, he's like, bro,
Yeah.
you better come place that ass in the seat. And I'm like, you're calling me out because I'm getting a little complacent. Okay, I get it, and whether that's in a meeting or in a one-on-one with him in a WhatsApp video chat or whatever, he just has a way of breaking that down. But consistency is what I use. I've got to stay consistent in my process. If I'm staying consistent, and I'm showing up every time the same way every single time, people know what to expect. I'm gonna be more apt to not having to get in that complacent spot. Complacency kills. I heard that
Yep.
a long time ago too. So I've got to stay coming to meetings. Stay tapped into my sponsor. My new routine that I've created for myself is very important. When I get out of bed in the morning and I have that uneasy feeling, because I know we all still do as addicts, like this disease ain't going nowhere, but I've now shifted that to where like I understand I need meetings now. Like that anxious feeling I get, I no longer am reaching for like drugs or like that thing. I'm reaching for my tablet or my phone and some kind of fellowship. Um, but having that spiritual growth, man, there's a lot of spiritual growth that happens in that first year.
Yeah.
Especially if you're working the steps and you got a sponsor and things like that. But this is a spiritual, not religious program. You know what I mean? Spirituality is for people who've been to hell and don't want to go back. Like religion's just for people who don't want to go to hell. They ain't never been there. We've been there before, right? We got to lean. We've been there maybe a couple of times, and so
Oh, yeah.
this is a spiritual, not religious program. And y'all hit on the gift of desperation, God, gift of desperation, group of drug addicts, get off drugs, the great outdoors. You can call him whatever you want, as long as he's not you. And I have a totally new network that has kept me going. The new network that keeps me accountable. Right? It's not about co-signing and riding my wave today anymore, Austin. It's about keeping me alive. So I surround myself with people that want to do the same thing for themselves, and we hold each other accountable to keep each other alive. Right? If I go missing, Milan's gonna come find me. If I go missing, some people, people in my home group, they will send police to my house. In a good way.
Yeah.
It's
Not
all
the
out of
SWAT
love.
team, just a regular constable.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So facing life on life's terms, man. Life doesn't stop when someone gets clean, man. We deal with shit. We deal with family drama, legal issues, financial struggles, relationship problems. But it's about handling that first year and getting out of that thing and not having so many scars and leaning into the good stuff today. So I don't even know if I answered your question, but
That was awesome.
That's good.
Can you
You're
repeat your question, Austin? Because I am the absent-minded addict.
right. Yeah. So I was like, how do you deal with like complacency when it comes up like during like so how long have you been in recovery now? Like
I'm just like 18. Like it'll be 19 months on the first.
okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah. So how do you deal with
I,
complacency?
so for me, it boils down to discipline, rinse and repeat. Okay, I could see that. I'm going to say this again. For me, it boils down to discipline, having a program every day that I rinse and repeat like it's my favorite shirt and the only one I want to wear. I get up and I literally like, you were talking about Groundhog Day, but it's like my program is a Groundhog Day in a way of life and growth,
Yeah.
where it's like the framework is identical and the results are different every single day.
Yeah.
Like I get up, I do my gratitude group thing, I do my readings, I do my music, some kind of exercise, walk my dogs, either doing a meeting or I'm doing, this podcast. I have, my session with the sponsor, but also sessions with sponsees throughout the week. And for me, it's that, they call it being a seeker. And it's that I'm always trying to learn more about this program because I find it the most infinitely fascinating thing I've ever been given the privilege of being part of. And it's like episodes and shows like this, it's like I learn something from every single person I hear on this. And I love that. And that's why I say to people, I'm like, pick a topic either you're enthusiastic about or something you're struggling with. Because I guarantee if you're struggling with something, you'll feel a little less struggle by the end of a 2 hour conversation about it. And
Yeah.
and so that, I mean, I'm lucky enough to have something like this in my life. And then, I've been really exploring a bunch of different smaller kind of local meetings recently, and just getting involved with them. I had my first candlelit meeting last night. Man, talk about people just getting down and honest. You turn out the lights a bit, and woo, it was amazing. And I
Yeah.
think that's it for me on that one. Now, Mr. Austin M, would you like to answer your question?
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's pretty relevant to yours. Basically, it all starts with me in the morning. My morning routine really kind of sets the tone for the day. Doing those little things, those little tasks, like I used to never make my bed. Like I was sleeping a mess. Now I make my bed every day, every morning. Put on. I do my daily reflections. That reading every day, so it just reminds me of recovery. I have my certificate on like right below my TV in my room of options. So I just having those like visual things really helps me just remember where I came from. Listening to like podcasts from like even like celebrities and stuff, like listening to them and like how they apply what they apply to their life is very relevant to what we've actually learned in recovery. All the principles and stuff, being patient, being willing, having discipline, having perseverance, all that, all those things. And yeah, it just really sets the tone for the day. Just treating my body right. Like you said, doing exercises. I work out like 6 days a week. Um, and then yeah, just go to meetings. I go to like four to five a week now. Just like I keep my biz. I'm pretty busy with work and stuff, but I always stay connected regardless. Um, and then if I'm ever having troubles with like people at work, like tolerance for other people that are normies and stuff, it's
Aliens.
can be very frustrating sometimes. And it's like, oh my god, you guys, it's like my mind's like, oh my god, like if you only knew what I do, like if you could apply that to what you're doing, because I could just see a lot of defects in other people, but I feel like maybe that's a sign for me to work on myself. Like patience, I definitely feel like I need to work on more sometimes. It's definitely improved, but sometimes it gets caught up and I let things a little bit fester, and then I get a little irritated. But I know my solution now. Like I call my sponsor and ask him, and then I kind of just vent to him, and then he kind of gives me a um, like his opinion, his perspective, and then it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense because my mind can play tricks on me, as you guys know, I'm sure. so
Hmm.
so it's good to ask for
Just a
other,
little bit.
yeah, it's good to ask for like other perspectives, I find, because yeah, my will is, yeah, not the right way, especially yeah, dealing with people, places, and things sometimes. So yeah, um asking for help is huge for sure. uh
Humility.
yep, you can't be like, put the ego aside and just be like, I'm human, we all need help, and we can all learn something from each other at the end of the day. So yeah, yeah, that's how I stay like connected. Just I just don't ever want to like drift away from the program. If I feel like I am drifting away, I always go to like a meeting or whatever, and then do my readings, because that just those little things help me stay like, oh, remember where I came from.
I
So
love that. That's awesome.
yeah.
And Mr. Andrew N, do you got a question for me?
First off, man, I just want to say that Austin, man, Mr. Austin is a breath of fresh air right here, man. It's like
Yeah.
you're like a cool glass of water, man. Because as you're going through your answers, and I've got a couple, I sponsor a couple young men. I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that. And man, you just hit a cookie cutter process, man. I couldn't have I don't think Google could have came up with a better answer than the way you did that, because it was just the way you just boom. This is what I'm doing. My gratitude, I'm just it's really refreshing to see, man.
Thank
Really just what your foundation bullets need to be, and it seems like you're really concentrating on those. All right, so you ready for my round of questions?
Of
Am I
course.
asking Austin first,
You're
or you?
asking me.
Okay. All
Keep
right,
in that order.
Milan. Oh, we haven't done this in a while. Me ask you questions. Ooh, I'll let you know first. Okay. All right. So, what have you learned about yourself, Milan, that surprised you since you've gotten clean?
Whoa, what have I learned about myself? Man, first thing I learned that I'm not terminally unique. Like, I thought I was like the special case that nobody could understand. And, it literally took me to my death, And now, I know I'm falling off the rocker when I start picking out differences. Like if I go to a meeting and I'm like real dissatisfied with the meeting, I'm like, now I'm like riding home and I'm like, what's wrong with me today? What why couldn't those 8 people's shares like be all right or something? Like I can tell when I'm a little bit off and I'm trying to separate myself. And that was, a lifelong thing, like literally so self-centered and ego-driven that nobody was like me and nobody would understand. And if only you could understand, then you'd act like I wanted you to. Just like some of the quotes and stuff from the books, I'm like, man, they're just like rewinding my life and like taking phrases from my own ego in there. And it's not all about me. That is the biggest thing I think that I'm learning, and that I have no control. Boom. And I'm going to leave that there because I feel like the surrender is the secret sauce to freedom.
Yeah.
And the moment you think about control, you're out of control. Ever heard that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, ready, Austin, for the question?
Yeah.
What have you learned, Mr. Birthday Boy, about yourself that surprised you since getting clean?
I learned that I am I don't know, like I'm a lot smarter than I gave myself credit for. Like I always used to bash myself, thinking I always called like, I'm my own worst enemy when in my addiction. I just always tell myself I wasn't worthy, tell myself I was an idiot or this and that and blah blah blah. But I realize if I focus my mind on something, I can really absorb the information, and if I really wanted it, I can if I really wanted it badly enough, I will listen and I will just soak it all in. And perseverance, that was a big one. I feel like I persevered through a lot throughout my even during my addiction, but finally surrendering and then realizing like, I don't have to fight this anymore. I can, just let it go instead of holding on to resentments all the time, and used to blame my I used to blame my parents for the way I acted because I went through a bunch of childhood trauma and stuff and had these feelings of isolation. But doing like my step 4 and stuff, it really showed me like, oh no, like I did this to myself, so I need to take accountability. So I used to never take accountability for my actions. So I feel like that's helped me grow into like more like a man finally, instead of just being so childish kind of thing, or you know, um, yeah. And I feel like I have a lot of willpower too. I didn't realize I had a lot of willpower. I used to always just say yes to everything, try to, you know, um, people please, do whatever anyone else wanted to do. Never thought of things that I wanted, that were good for me personally. It just, even if it was going to destroy my character or this, that, I would do it. But now I have the power to say no. And I've had like tests come up, like former, like random numbers calling or texting me, like, want to buy, drugs and stuff. And I'm like, no, like, fuck that. And then delete, delete, delete. Like, I never did that back in the day, ever. It was always like, oh, yeah, boom, boom. And it was like game over for me. So I realized I do have a lot of willpower, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing, and the discipline to do what I need to do instead of what I want, what I feel like doing what I need to do to protect my recovery at all costs. Because if I don't have my recovery, I have nothing, and I really try to jam that in my brain. I have a whiteboard in my kitchen that really I write down stuff on there, and I have the cards from options about just these like little cards, whatever. I read them out loud to myself, and yeah, it's what else? I don't know. I just keep learning more and more about myself. I think each day, just little bits here and there. Just keep trying to grow into the best version of myself. So that's pretty much all I got.
I love that, man. I
That
love
was
that.
great, brother. That was
Never stop
awesome.
learning. Never stop learning, man. As soon as you think you got this thing figured out, bro, we're done. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And stay humble. That humility piece. So love and humility are my two things, man. That's what I have built my foundation of my recovery on. So if
yeah,
you're if that's one of your things, man, hang your hat on that humble part, man. Because if you can remain humble and realize that it's not a sign of weakness to ask for help, you're gonna get somewhere in this thing. You
yeah,
know.
yeah,
So what are some things that I've learned about myself that surprised me since getting clean? Well, I realized man, I didn't know myself near as like I did, I realized that I can feel things deeply. I can feel things deeply and process them and not just go use drugs and say I'm gonna figure that shit out. I can feel those things and I can process them. And on top of that, I realized how resilient I was. I didn't think I
yeah,
had any resiliency in me, and I realized how resilient I was. I used to think I couldn't handle life without drugs. They were that artificial means to get through the day. And now I have a practical means to get through the day and to tap in spiritually. The step work, my sponsor, these books, the literature, all that stuff. But it gave me getting clean that first year gave me a space to feel free again. If anything, I felt free finally. I felt free from the grips, right? I felt like, freedom arrives at my doorstep, Austin, in the form of choices. Like I got a choice today because I didn't pick up.
yeah,
And that right there is everything, man, is being able to have a choice, man. I didn't realize that in active addiction, I had no choices. We didn't have a choice.
no,
We had to feed that beast before we fed Austin in the morning.
yeah,
We had to feed that beast before we fed Milan in the morning, right? And so our drugs and our disease was doing a lot of that, was doing all the decision making for us, whether we knew it or not. We thought we had it going on. We thought we were living good at sometimes. We didn't have shit going on, man. We thought we had good times, bad times. There was no good times. There was no bad times, man. It was just we either had enough drugs in our system or in our pouch that we were cool, we were chill, or we were just a raging lunatic. I'll keep it on me. If I didn't have my drugs, don't come talk to me. Don't come near me. Don't come talk to me. I started thinking about it the other day. Even when I had my drugs, I was like, don't come talk to me. Don't come think. Don't. What are you chasing me down for? Leave me alone.
yeah,
So we talk about all this. We were doing it. We were doing anything. And so I found out how resilient I was, right? And then the biggest thing with me is I realized, and y'all taught me this in these rooms, is that I was able to not only receive love, that I could give love, man.
yeah,
And that I was giving it my whole life, but I was never able to tap into it because I was running from all those good feelings because I didn't have anything to offer that side of life. I didn't have anything to offer a God that was all knowing and all spiritual. If he chased me down and caught me, he was going to take the couple things I had. That's how I felt. And so when y'all taught me how to love myself, and now that I know how to do that, and I realized how much I was given growing up by my mother and things like that, like I give that shit out like a wildfire, man. I am the love doctor in these meetings. No one will argue with that. I give out love like it's going out of style. I'll say it again. I have a super circle full of it, and it doesn't run dry. Like I'll throw love on you uncomfortably until you understand what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to show
yeah,
you love. You know what I mean? It's not like love you, bro, or in that weird kind of love. It's about brotherly love, man. It's about like, hey, I love you for being here because we greet each other in these meetings as if we survived the same near death catastrophe, man. And if for anything else, man, I love you for that. And we hope we see you tomorrow. because we need you. You know, it's a different kind of thing, a love than being like, hey, I love you. You know, I choose to love that person because she's pretty or he's good looking. Get out of here, man. That's not what love's about. And so yeah, I realized that that I could listen. I didn't even know how to listen when I was in active addiction, man. um you know, and then I really mattered as a person. That, you know what I mean, y'all in these meetings showed me that I was a human being, and I mattered in this world, right? I'm no important than anybody else though, but I matter, you know, and I'm a part of. So and I don't have to be ever alone ever again. NA stands for never alone ever again. So um I've got a support network that we travel the world. We travel around to these meetings like a pack of hyenas, man, and we just recover, man. We recover hard, and we recover out loud. So yeah, that's where I'm at with it, man. But thank
Love
you.
you, brother.
I love you.
So, before I do the next question to you, Austin, we had this guy, Tom, that I met down in Mexico on. And I
Yeah.
just want to share this with you because it was the greatest quote of 2025, right, Andrew? For sure.
Yes, for sure.
For sure. And dude, somebody told him this when he was in early recovery.
Most
And
powerful, for sure.
if I wish somebody had said it to me 6 months ago. I was whatever. I'm so glad he frickin' said it. But this isn't a program of self-improvement. This is a program of surrender. Now let that sink in for the next 30 something years of your life,
Man,
and just start letting it go. You know,
Yeah.
because you said something earlier, and I was like, that was exactly me, where you're like, I still gotta work on patience.
Yeah.
No, we suck at working on stuff. You still gotta surrender patience.
look,
You know.
we got to
Yeah,
out
like
surrender this
for
thing,
me,
Austin.
for me, it was like anger, fear, and anxiety were like I was having some crippling situations with them, and guess what? I was sucking at working on them. I
Yeah.
had 51 years of failing at working on them, and now all of a sudden I'm in a program and I'm just a great defect worker. Like it's like I'm like a red seal defect worker. Look at me go, but
Yeah.
that's not it.
Yeah,
And
and think about this, Austin. Like, it's so much easier to out surrender this thing than to like work on the 150 things that either you and all your people think are wrong with you, right?
Yeah.
Like if you out surrender your defects and get some self acceptance, it's so much easier to do that, bro. You can out surrender that thing all day. Give it
Yeah.
up.
That's
it
so true.
that quote, man, has just got me to do like a little circle back to earlier in my recovery and start working on it all again, man.
Yeah,
Like
man.
and I just wanted to share that with you because it had meant so much to me. And I figure we're on this journey together. Like it's these little nuggets. Like Tom sharing it with us changed me. Me sharing it with you. Hopefully, it's gonna just be like, whoa, hey, back it up, man. I surrendered my addiction. Why can't I surrender my patience?
Yeah. Like I surrendered. Yeah. That's true.
You
That's
know,
Also,
so
like
true.
serenity comes when we trade expectations for acceptance. That's another little small one
boom,
that we've
boom,
been
boom,
living
boom,
by.
boom.
But
Yep.
serenity comes when we trade expectations for acceptance. You got to accept the current moment as it is, as if you willed it to be that way, and then act. Right? Don't act and then try to accept. It's really
Yep.
it's really
Boom. Okay, here comes the question. In the silence of surrender, we discover strength not in control, but in the freedom of letting go. What have you released this year that once felt impossible to live without, Austin?
Uh, like this year or this past year?
Well, like in the last year, yeah.
The last year. Yeah. Well, um, letting. Can you say the question again? Sorry.
Sure.
1 second.
Um, I'll read it all. In the silence of surrender, we discover strength not in control, but in the freedom of letting go. What have you released this year that once felt impossible to live without?
Well, using drugs for sure. Um, I didn't. I thought I needed drugs for like everything, like whether it was like marijuana to like sleep, whether it was like drinking to like socialize, whether it was, you know, other cocaine to frickin' stay up all night and party and not pass out at parties for drinking too much. It was just like just ridiculous. Like always had to have a substance to do anything. Thought I needed it. Thought I needed to function to give me energy or yeah, it was just living in a delusional world, and I just didn't think I just never knew how to accept myself along the way. Um, Other things I had to let go of that really was a huge weight was basically forgiving myself for all the shit I did. That I'm not like a terrible person, that we all make mistakes, and that we can just, as long the past doesn't like define who I am today, and that I can forgive like my, you know, make amends to my family and also forgive them and just, have some compassion and realize like we all go through shit and sometimes we act a certain way and we can't control that because like shit happens to everybody. So that was a huge relief because I'm not special. I remember you saying that, like, we're not special. We're all human here. Um, Another thing of letting go, I had a couple instances at work where I'm like, okay, like the money seemed really good and whatnot, but the client was really very making like subtle comments and stuff that were like really getting to me and stuff. It was like I kept asking myself, is it really worth it over my emotional sobriety and my serenity level? And I'm like, no, I think not. So once I let that go, it took me like about a week because it just like festered and festered. I'm like, okay, I really just got to get this taken care of. So I take action. Once I let it go, it was like, yeah, another weight lifted. So it was like a little test throughout my recovery. I found I've had that a couple times. And I think speaking up for yourself too, don't let people, walk over you like a doormat is huge. So I used to let that happen all the time, and I'm like, I'm not going to put up with that anymore. I'm going to stand up for myself, not act out irrationally, not get angry, but like voice my opinion. Be like, no, that's not right. You can't. Don't talk to me like that or whatever. So, um, yeah, once because I think if you like don't take care of that, like for me anyways, just builds up a resentment and builds up anger and stuff. And like, so I feel like talking it out, like at a meeting, it's like talking out. It's like applying it to my life, my everyday life too, like talking about it. And once you talk about it, we usually come to like a good conclusion, and then we go our ways and shake hands or whatever. That's good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's all I got. Thanks.
With my clients in the last year and a half, like in my recovery, there's a couple times where I'm like, did you intend to be hurtful with that statement? I
Yeah,
said, how else? I said, how else can that be interpreted? I said, close your eyes and let me repeat what you just said to me or texted to me. I said, because I'm having a hard, I said, maybe I'm a little too sensitive. I said, but the only way I can see this is as being hurtful. I said, was that your intention? And
yeah,
quite often that will change the direction of the conversation right there. You
yeah.
know, like I just won't let people be abusive like that anymore
No, no.
because the people pleaser in me used to just pretend like it wasn't happening.
Yeah,
And then it was like me, I was the shit storage device, you know?
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Shit storage device. I like that.
Yeah.
Sure. I was the same way. I was like, I have.
If I was the device full of shit
Put your
storage.
shit here. Right in my ears.
I'm the dumpster right here. Just dump all
Yeah.
your shit right in
Yeah,
here.
you got some like unresolved childhood trauma. Put it in my head.
Ah, that's
Okay.
funny.
Okay, Andrew. In the
Yes.
silence of surrender, we discover strength, not in control, but in the freedom of letting go. What have you released in your recovery that once felt impossible to live without?
Wow. Well, part of that was in your question. Part of my answer is in your question, man. It's about letting go of all those things that I had to cling on to survive, that survival mode. I got to get out of that survival mode. So part of that is I've realized that I had to release that illusion of control. You know what I mean? That was a huge one, man. I spent a lot of my life trying to manage, manipulate, and force outcomes and trying to control everything around me. And that just wasn't working. That wasn't working. I'm never in control of what happens around me, but I am in control of what happens in me. You ever heard that? Um, I am in control of what I do and what goes on in me. And sometimes the most important thing here is pushing through those really, really tough times, man. And sometimes the most afraid thing that you're doing is going to set you free. The thing that you're most afraid of doing will set you the freest. And so you got to let go of that control, man. You should control everything. I also was able to let go of shame. I let go of shame, not all at once, but it's a process. Um, I had to release some of that really heavy, deep shame, and I gotta put down that bat, pick up a feather, and treat myself with a little respect. Um, the fact that I've come this far, I can't keep getting down on myself, man. I'll get down. I'll blame myself for everything, you know. And I'll get back into those. I don't know. Those modes where I think I can do everything myself. Because in active addiction, I don't know if y'all can relate to this. I didn't rely on anybody for help. It was all me. It was all me. So I had to do everything myself. And so when I came in here, I felt the same way. I felt like I still had to do everything myself. And so I really given up to the fact that I can surrender to the fact that I don't have to be alone, and I can't do this alone. I got to have him, and I got to have at least one other person. It says in my literature that I don't need a whole army. I don't need like an army of friends. I don't need all that. That's great. That comes if you want it. But I need a God of my understanding. I need belief in myself, and I need one other person. Just one other person. Hopefully your sponsor, but just one other human being that has belief in you. You can stay clean the rest of your life. And when you realize that, and that you don't have to use drugs ever again, Austin, even if you want to, that
Yeah.
puts a different spin on it, man. So someone told me that really early on in recovery, and they said, look, bro, you don't have to use drugs, man, even if you want to. And I was like, it put a different spin on it where it was like, drugs want me to use them, right? So I try to spin my mentality on, because I'm kind of gonna have this finger up to the world mentality anyway, as an addict, right? I'm going against the grain anyway. So now in recovery, I want to go against what these drugs want me to do, right? I empower myself to go like the biggest fuck you to drugs I can say is like to remain abstinent from those drugs, is to be stronger than those drugs, right? And the only way I'm gonna do that is have something a little bit bigger than me, man, because I've had my self-will for 20 plus years, and I've just been throwing it around like it's dodgeball, man. You know what I mean? And we're not playing dodgeball with our self-will here, man. I just need to give it to him. When he gives it back to me every morning and wakes me up when he wants me to, I give it right back to him, because I don't know what to do with it. I have no idea what to do with it. I've proven that. And so letting go of all that, I was able to gain peace. And as we know, man, peace is not. There's no way to peace. Peace is the way, right, Milan?
Boom.
And look, if it costs me my peace today, it's too expensive, Austin. Like, I'm so familiar in chaos, and as an addict coming out of addiction, I don't know what peace is. And now that I've started to get a little bit of that peace, and it's unfamiliar, I'm starting to be able to grasp onto that unfamiliar peace and have it in my life. And peace is not like a luxury; it's a necessity in this thing. We got to have peace in this thing, or
Yeah.
we're just gonna go find something to go get peaceful about, and we already know where that's at. So, yeah, that's a good question.
Beautiful. And for myself, in the silence of surrender, we discover strength not in control, but in the freedom of letting go. What have you released this year that once felt impossible to live without? Well, okay, there's really three things that come to mind, and the very first one, the desire to use. Like, I thought that there could be no happiness without altering it with a substance. Quite similar to like what Austin was saying about, using it to get up, to go down, to stay awake. Like there was a drug that, made me okay in almost all situations. And that was like something, and then I've said it a million times, my hamster wheel was like more, need more using. I need more while I'm using, need more for later. Do I got enough for tomorrow? How's that set up? Like what? And my brain would be like 30 to 70%, making sure that I was always okay in that department. But that was a lot of my brain. And so being free of that from my surrender, like it really was my surrender that changed my obsession of the mind in that way. You know, like I thought I had control over it, and surrendering that control changed the percentage of my brain that I now have available to actually just exist with, for sure. But one of the biggest things, like, and I remember this made me cry for like 36 hours straight when I did my step 5. I had my first guilt-free day and a half in my entire life. I remember like tears of joy just every time somebody would ask me how I was doing.
2 days of tears.
I was just like, I'm the best ever, man. You don't know the love and relief I got right now. Because I would have, like, I'm telling you right now, guilt was a massive thing my whole life. Raised Catholic, altar boy, banished from the church when my robe caught fire. I was like, you are the devil. Like, people told me I was bad as a kid, and I believed them because I was a kid and they were older. And, like, so I had guilt about who I was, what I thought, and everything I did for so many years. And it wasn't until doing that step work that I was able to address that. I thought it was just a lifelong result of childhood. I never had tools that showed me, hey, you know what? You can change all these horrible things that are you're feeling inside you about you with a little bit of work, a little bit of insight. A little bit of pain will make that pain go away forever. And kind of what I've learned in this program is that, they call it like a scar on your heart. And yeah, it hurts to take that scar away, but afterwards your heart gets to be more open forever. And that's what I feel the step work has done for me in my life. And so I think that that's the end of my question there. Mr. Austin M, aka Birthday Boy, do you have another question for Andrew N?
I guess for you guys, I don't know if I won't be able to really answer it myself, but like, how did you guys first get into like sponsoring other people? Because I'm looking to maybe start that up now that I'm getting, getting a year today, of recovery. So looking to
Yeah.
explore that
Yep.
option.
Yeah, that's a great question. So do you have a sponsor?
I do have a sponsor, yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. So, obviously we know, or, a sponsor is somebody with experience working the 12 steps and hopefully the 12 steps and the traditions.
Yeah.
And they are simply another addict that is available and will help you through those 12 steps and those 12 traditions. And it can be a lot. It can be a lot beyond that. It can be cut and dried to just that. A lot of people get a running partner, that really is there for anything and everything for them. Obviously I've worked through the 12 steps completely. Um, I was told to don't even think about sponsoring people if you have not worked through the 12 steps. You know what I mean? You got to have at least working knowledge of the 12 steps. And then as it got to that point, I mean, there were a lot of people that asked me to be their sponsor before I had worked through the 12 steps. And it was kind of cool because when I was brand new in recovery, there was a gentleman that was in one of my meetings, and I used to just really, he had everything I wanted in recovery, right? I just wanted everything he had, and I asked him to be my sponsor, and it was like a big deal, man. I was like real nervous, and he was like, "Bro, He said, "I would absolutely love to sponsor you," but he said, "I've not worked through the 12 steps." He goes, "And I'll help you out any way I can." Bro, and I felt, I almost didn't go back to that meeting. Like I felt like there was something wrong with me. But it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot. It taught me a lot because it made me think about the whole process in itself and what that meant, right? Like when you're brand new, you like when he says that to you, you don't really know what that means. Dude, would you? Like when he's like, "Hey, I just haven't worked through the 12 steps," and you just go, "Well, okay," but you sound amazing in these meetings and all all this other stuff. But anyways, it's one of those things where how I got into it is, man, I pray a lot, and I do what feels right, and I lean into my program, and I have to lean into the unexplainable. And so when I first there were people that would ask me, and I knew I wasn't ready, but when I was ready, I didn't like put it out there like, "Hey, I'm ready to be a sponsor." And there are some meetings that say, "Hey, if you're willing to be a sponsor, raise your hand," and all that stuff. That's not my thing. people just find me, and I'll see how they're working the program, and then they'll ask me to sponsor them, and I might give them a little task to do and see where they're at with it and see if they can do that.
Yeah.
And then if they are committed, because look, this is a two-way street. When we decide to sponsor somebody, this is not me just helping them through life. Yes, I'm helping them through these 12 steps in life and all that stuff, but they're helping me just as much as I'm helping them.
Yeah.
When they call me with a problem, it gets me out of my head and it gets me into what the real meaning of this program is, which is service. You know, you come off, we work all these steps, and then we come over to step 12. You know, all these steps is self work, self, and then we come to step 12 and realize it has absolutely nothing to do with us. And that's how it works. You know what I mean? And you know, sponsorship is the highest form of service in our program, and sponsorship is the bloodline, man. You know, and so I have limited myself to just two or three, and because I put everything into them. We know some people have been on this podcast that have 35. He has a whole army. That's crazy. That dude is nuts. Chris.
But he's retired. Like his full-time job
But
is
that's
sponsorship.
an army. Imagine. I mean,
I know, but like imagine he needs to build a shed. He just calls his sponsees and they come and he's got a free shed. No.
so yeah, it's what you make it. But yeah, don't. But when you start, as that starts rolling downhill, talk to your sponsor about it. And then if somebody asks you to be their sponsor, if you have worked through the 12 steps, I would just say, hey, look, this has come across my table, and this is how I kind of feel about it. And your sponsor will point you in the right direction on that part.
Awesome. Thank you.
Man, I'm really glad you asked this. This is the one question I don't need to be repeated, because I was actually going to ask you about sponsorship and when you were going to put your toe in the pool.
Yeah.
So two things. Like I got into it early because my sponsor, he started sponsoring people at 2.5 months into the program. He's like in all the literature I can see, he says that the only requirement to be a sponsor is having had your spiritual awakening. And he's like, obviously had that. And then in another part in the AA Big Book, it says there is nothing that offers more immunity from the risk of drinking than to help another addict. And so basically, he's like, I need the most immunity. He was scared to death of relapsing. And so he just started sponsoring people. And thankfully so. I mean, and he's still straight and he's a great sponsor. So, for me, how I got into it was I had a friend who was relapsing and I basically was just going over and talking recovery with him. And then one day he was just like, hey, I think I'm ready to try and give it another shot. Would you sponsor me? And so then came sponsee number one.
Right.
They say you go to a barber shop and you get a haircut. Well, you talk to a suffering addict and there's a good chance that eventually you'll get a sponsee, and the one thing I think is ultimately genius, which I never realized until I started sponsoring, man, the way they called that group I go to on Monday nights that you come to sometimes, Monday night beginners, guess
Yeah.
what? When you look on the internet and you're like an alcoholic and you're like, how do I get started? It says Monday night beginners. Guess who comes? New
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
They don't go to like the closed meeting step work only, like, or men, the people who are just shy and scared, they go to that. Like, that's a great place for you to meet somebody because
Yeah.
there's also the treatment center places and there's that. And then online, when like on the online meetings that I've done regularly, you see new people who come on. Like if you make yourself a regular, you can see who's new. And one of the best things you can do is make someone feel really welcome at a meeting. Because most people are scared coming in. And guess what? It's not their job to reach out. It's
No.
ours. It's us to go and say, hey, are you okay? Take them aside, stay after the meeting or in the break on the Monday night one. They're going to be the ones trying to deke for the car. And you just walk up and be like, hey, man, you ever want to talk? And you give them your phone number personally so they got a face to the name. And that's a really good way to do it, and another way, which I gotta say, and I'm just gonna say his name. I'm not saying his last name, but you know how there's Steve in my meeting, and Steve
Yeah.
shares really are for a newcomer, right?
Yeah.
It's like making sure that your share is for them instead of for your own relief. Like obviously it's okay to talk about your mess, right? But to show how the program has pulled you from your mess to your message, and how that worked for you coming into the program, it's really does a service to them to do that. And I think it's a really big deal to be pulling ourselves out of ourselves to make that kind of share.
Yeah.
Like how this program is applicable in the moments of my struggle. I think, like that's the insight that most people are looking for, you know?
Right.
And and another thing too is, going back to options for going to options for the alumni meetings, in person, getting to know those people who are about to leave and probably scared to go back out on their feet. And just to, even if you become friends with one of them, like, hey man, do you need a ride to the meetings first couple weeks or something? Like
Yeah.
because reaching out, man, the phone can feel like 10,000 pounds.
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah,
we don't use the phone. A lot of us. It's
yeah. I mean, I called my sponsor yesterday and I was like, man, I don't call you enough. I'm like, but I wanted to call you not in a crisis. I want to call you on an awesome day too.
yeah.
And tell you how much I love you and tell you, how much of a difference you've made in my life. And we just had a great conversation. But, there was a point where I had 5 sponsees, and that was too much.
Yeah.
But, I recommend a good couple, and it will just, like you want to talk about complacency, man, it keeps you placing your ass in a seat of talking recovery with someone, you
Yeah.
know, and that's a big thing. So I think that's it for me on that one. And if you're not going to answer that one, unless you want to say something about it,
Um, well, I'm gonna take the advice and stuff that you guys have told me and definitely apply that and definitely talk to my sponsor about it and how to kind of introduce myself or, I'll probably will put my hand up if they say if you're willing to sponsor now kind of thing, just to kind of get my name out there.
and
But
there's a chapter in the AA book that talks
yeah,
about helping others,
yeah,
and then there's a whole piece of literature in NA on it as well. And
right.
I do recommend reading those because they do kind of tell you some do's and don'ts of what will kind of turn somebody off or not when
Right.
you're starting to,
Yeah.
and it'll actually, you'll kind of read it, and I think, in one afternoon later, you're a little bit more prepared to be more helpful.
Yeah. Definitely.
Oh, you're muted right now, Andrew.
Did you mention the sponsorship IP by any chance?
Okay, no, but go for it. There you go.
Yeah,
Boom.
I was gonna say there's a sponsorship IP. I believe it's IP number 9. I believe there's
No,
informational pack.
IP9 is the daily inventory.
Okay, so I think it's might be 19 then. I'm not sure. It's called the sponsorship IP, and it's actually a very, very good layout. And what I've told my sponsees before, and what I've been told as a potential sponsor, is to take this with you. If you are going to sit down and speak with somebody about being a sponsor, and you being a sponsee, and vice versa, you being a sponsor of them, it's a good guideline of like what to expect as a sponsor, what to expect as a sponsee, and it's almost a guideline of questions that you can bring to the table as almost like an interview process. It's a really, really good baseline of what to expect, what you're gonna want to expect out of them, what they're gonna want to expect out of you, because it is a two-way street. And
Yeah.
a lot of people get into the sponsorship relationship without going over that, at least that sponsorship IP, and then they realize it was a bad decision. You know what I mean? Like,
I
Yeah.
agree. My sponsor now, my second sponsor, he's when I asked him, he said, "Okay, let's meet for an hour." he said we're gonna have to spend a lot of time together, and he's like, I've learned now that I need to see if we're compatible, and also if you really need me.
Yeah.
Like some people aren't necessarily addicts or alcoholics, but just heavy drinkers who've gotten a little stray or whatever. But
Yeah.
also, like, man, you don't want to be anchored with somebody that you can't stand being in the same room as.
Yeah.
You know,
They'll take you
like
out. They'll take you out.
literally having a 1 hour, whatever the blind date moment is
Yeah.
worth it. And stating beforehand, hey, let's go with no expectations, and if this works out, great.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
because like I know I've had some friends take on some sponsees that was like almost caused their relapse just because they were
Yes.
so incompatible. And man, you sometimes they're going to ask more of you than you're ready to give, right?
And you can do damage to a sponsee if you're not ready to, to tackle what their problems are. And then if you're, and also this is one thing that gentleman that does sponsor 35 people, he goes, if you're going to be a sponsor, you got to have one thing. You got to be able to keep a secret, a lot of them,
Mm.
and to hold some of that heavy shit in, because these sponsees of yours are going to shit that step four. They're going to be sharing some shit that you might not have ever heard before, and you got to be ready to handle it.
Yeah.
And but so don't just, like, if you see a kid in a meeting a couple times and he's like, wow, I need a sponsor, and you kind of like his vibe, and then he asks you to sponsor him in a meeting. Don't do it right. Don't be like, yes, I'm your sponsor. Just talk to him first.
Be
Talk to
like,
him
hey, you
first.
want to meet tomorrow and have
Yeah.
a coffee and get
Say,
to
look,
know each
call me
other?
in the morning. Call me in the morning, and see if he calls you. Because if he don't call you to begin with, then that's a red flag, right? You don't want to be chasing your sponsees down. And then B, does he really want it? And then then you can kind of really feel out where he's at as a person and what he wants. What he's
Right.
looking. Does he need a babysitter, or does he need a sponsor? Does he want a financial advisor? Or does he want a sponsor? So
Makes
I
sense.
love that. Okay,
yeah.
Andrew, you got another question for me?
I do, man. So what spiritual principles have been most important to you early in your recovery, and why?
Well, I feel for me, when they say honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, that was well on my way. Like I literally, before hitting my rock bottom, I had no open-mindedness about the program. I had no willingness to change because I didn't hurt enough. Like that that last couple years of just kind of watching myself diminish and getting closer to death, and then the night of actually dying, like that was hard and scary enough that that I can't even fathom a darker moment for myself. And I think that it took that, and it took that to shake a little bit of honesty about where the heck I was in my life. I just kept myself fucked up enough that I was believing those delusions. And then once the drugs were gone and I was a little bit straighter, that honesty of really me being powerless and that my life was unmanageable, it was 100% apparent. So those three, the way that they're mentioned in the book, I remember they're like, I'm like, this is me right now. Like, this is me right now. I'm like, please, options. I am willing to do whatever you say. I'm open minded to things that I would have been like, you're crazy 2 months ago. But yeah, so I'm going to stick with those right now for me.
That's the how of the program: honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness.
It
The
was
how.
how I got started.
Love it, man. Love it. Then, all right, Mr. Austin. So, what spiritual principles have been most important to you early on in your first year of recovery, brother?
The willingness for sure. That's probably my biggest one, I think. Having that willingness to do whatever it took, because I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. That saying, I was just willing to actually make a change and do something for myself, and being open minded to whatever options. were telling me, and just like, trying to understand, asking a lot of questions, and not just, um, not just blowing it by. I mean, like, not just trying to just get through it, like actually trying to understand how this program works, and just being open and honest. Because I was like a chronic, or I mean, I'm sure most of us were, but like chronic lying nonstop. So like just breaking that habit, it's definitely like a process for sure. But I feel like I know for sure I've grown a lot throughout that, and just persevering. It was actually perseverance was on my door at options. So we also have a spiritual principle on each door we get assigned to, and mine was perseverance. And I feel like, yeah, that definitely resonated with me a lot. So I feel like it was there for a reason, and I went in there, and I feel like I have a lot of perseverance because I persevered through a lot of challenges in my life and came out on the other side. And I'm very grateful that I'm still alive, because just reflecting on the past and some of the stuff I've done, I'm surprised I'm still here. But I feel like my higher powers always had my back, and I was open to believing in something greater than myself. I was always kind of against the religion thing, but once I found it was like a spiritual program, like finding your spiritual, I feel like finding my spiritual higher self within me is like my higher power. And like you become, you attract what you become. So like the laws of the universe, I feel like that's a huge thing that I'm open to. And like just if I do, it's like your vibe attracts your tribe. If that's another saying I've heard. So if you're gonna treat yourself like shit and beat yourself up, that you're just gonna attract those kinds of people. So once I started um, working on myself and becoming more positive, and like just really showing myself, like having self-respect for myself for once, felt like is just attracting. It wasn't chasing. It was just attracting things into my life that I never thought were even possible. And like from where I was, like during my addiction, I started a business and stuff. I was worried about losing everything and this and that once I went to treatment. But like I've gained so much more and met so many more positive people, and had to cut off all the other negative shit that I thought was good for me. And so it's just, um, yeah, that perseverance and willingness, being honest, having discipline. I try to apply a spiritual principle to every day in my life. Uh, Tolerance, um, yeah, tolerance of people, places, and things. Um, yeah, there's having compassion for other people. Like I met a home. It's kind of funny. When I went to Costa Rica, actually, I read one of the daily reflections. I think it was on April 17th. It said at the end, it said, "Just for today, I will attend a meeting." And like I was really far away from a meeting that I was looking online, like 6 hours away, and I was like, "Frick, how am I gonna get there and back and whatever?" So I went to like the gym, and like some homeless guy, Costa Rican guy, was asking me for food. He asked me if I could buy some food. And I was like, "Yeah, no worries, man. I'll help you guys. I'll buy some food for you." He told me he had like 6 months or clean time from drugs at least. And I told him like, "Yeah, I almost have a year." And he asked me, "What do I do?" And he's like, "I usually go to meetings." He's like, "Oh, there's actually just a meeting just down the road, and it starts at 6 p.m. that day." So I was like, "Oh, that's my higher power working in my favor."
Man,
Like, yeah,
was
here
it
you
ever?
go. Yeah, it was a little God shot. I'm like, wow, like it's crazy how those things just,
There's recovery around the world, man.
yeah. So I attended it. It was cool. It was in Spanish, but they had a translator there, so they were able to kind of tell me what they were saying and stuff. So it was different. It was really cool. Um, it's just, yeah, the gifts of recovery, they're endless, and having that self awareness, being self aware of the things around us, because they're happening around us, but I never was able to notice it. This is
Yeah.
so minded on, yeah, on the
Tunnel
back.
vision on substance, man.
Yeah, it was just brutal. But now you see the world, and we live in a beautiful world if we choose to see it that way, honestly. And yeah, the way we think is critical. Yeah,
Love
so
it.
yeah,
I
Love that,
love
man.
that, man. That was great. And
That was
Mr.
beautiful.
Andrew?
So what spiritual principles have been most important to me early on in recovery, and why? I mean, I don't have to say it. Unconditional love and humility. I'm gonna play that shit out. I don't care. It doesn't get old. It doesn't lose. Love is the most powerful drug in the world, Austin. It is the most powerful spiritual principle that we have in this program. It is also one of the ones that we can actually give to each other. So,
Yeah.
hope and love are the only two that we can physically actually give to each other. The other ones we can't, And so, blessed that that is my jam, if you will. But I've learned patience. I didn't have any patience before I got here. What was patience? I had patience for absolutely nothing. Now I needed it now, yesterday. I needed it better, faster, stronger. I didn't have patience. I also have awareness now. It kind of ties in with the self-acceptance thing. It's very, very important. I don't try to build self-esteem today, Austin. I try to just accept who I am. It's a lot easier to accept that individual who is continuing to surrender than to try to build self-esteem, which means I'm a fragile person at points, right? If I'm trying to
Yeah.
build self-esteem, I'm going to get a mixed bag of effects. I have confidence today, and confidence is not, hey, I walk into a room and I know that I'm the shit, right? It's not that at all. Confidence is just knowing that I've been through hell, and that I don't care what the hell comes up against my plate, that I can get through it, and that I have the capability to figure it out. So confidence going into a situation has been very important to me. You can't come in here with your head held low and think that like this stuff's just going to wear off on you. This is the most dangerous spectator sport in the world. You cannot just sit back in the back of the class and think that these things are going to wear off on you. You got to work on yourself. Um, let's see, gratitude. I got to stay in that grateful, a grateful addict doesn't use. So I've been
Yeah.
giving gratitude. I didn't know what gratitude was unless the dope man was giving me my drugs or I got off on somebody. That was my gratitude in active addiction, and it's completely changed around. Just being grateful to be alive and know what color the walls are today is a special thing. You know what? I know what food tastes like today, right, Austin? You're a year clean. Look, I mentioned this in one of our last podcasts. If you're in active addiction right now, first of all, we love you and thank you for being here and listening. But you don't know what food tastes like right now. The food you're eating don't taste like that, and the colors you're looking at don't look like that. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. You're
And
not wrong.
so when you start looking outside, you start seeing the light shine through the trees for the first time. You talk about a spiritual awakening. If you ain't had one, you start seeing that light through that trees, consider that a spiritual awakening. Because I used to fly around in active addiction, man, under rainbows, not even knowing what a rainbow was, man. And when I started getting clean and we look up and we see a rainbow, man, it was like the best thing in the world. You know what I mean? Like little things like that we get excited about. That's what normal people get excited about.
Yeah.
It's just being able to tap into my feelings today. Honesty, you hit on honesty. You have perseverance. I don't know if you listened to one of our last podcasts. I think it was just a few podcasts back. We did one on perseverance, the whole podcast, 2 hours on perseverance. You should go listen to it. It's a good one. But then accountability. I've got accountability today, man. I didn't know what the fuck that was in active addiction. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Totally. Yeah. You touched on some stuff that I missed too. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Wicked.
Okie dokie. I got another question here. I'm like, man, choosing between two questions right now because I like them both, but I'm going to go with this one. Recovery teaches, and this is to you, Austin and birthday boy. Recovery teaches that honesty is not a confession of weakness, but a declaration of worthiness. In what moment did you speak your truth and finally feel seen?
Oh, um, I felt like, I guess there's a few moments. Um, just when I was being honest. So about accepting that I needed help to my family, telling them like I was lying to them like throughout my addiction, saying like because I have electrical business on the go. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing good, I'm very successful, this and that. But behind the scenes, I was using day in and day out, consistently putting on a mask and basically just portraying an image that, oh, I'm doing great, I'm successful, this and that. But deep down, I was just dying, like dying and dying and dying. And then I think once I became honest with that, that was very freeing, for sure. Very emotional. being open and honest about how sick I am right now and that I need help, and then doing my did my past 90 days at options, reading that to them, um, working my step four. Um, that was really huge for me, and just so I had my mom, my dad, my grandfather who passed away, my ex girlfriend, and yeah, my mom's ex boyfriend. I don't know. I was just once I wrote like before I even wrote it down, I got emotional just thinking about all the stuff in the past. I feel like it was like a wave of things coming to my head. I'm like, holy crap! Like this is intense. But once I put pen to paper and write everything down, I feel like I was just releasing all this extra baggage that I was holding on to, and just being honest with myself and just taking a really hard look at it and like recognizing all the patterns that were relative to every person, the way I treated them, and it just really opened my eyes to a lot of to the way I to the reason why I was acting that way to people, and how I never really I felt isolated throughout. I felt not isolated. Well, I isolated myself a lot during my addiction, but I also didn't feel accepted with my dad, and like I guess like seeing other people having their father and stuff at like hockey games and stuff. Never had my dad. I felt like I wasn't worthy. I didn't realize how much that actually really affected me. Um, like my mom almost got killed in front of me by her ex-boyfriend when I was 10 years old. And that built up a lot of anger and also resentment towards my mom because I told her I didn't like him and stuff. And um yeah, there's a lot of stuff. A lot of just a lot of dirt that's digging up and just getting it out. And like I felt like I had to hold that all in because I thought I was gonna be judged. But then once I found these people in the meetings and stuff, it was like, oh, okay, I feel like I finally found my people and was able to just be open about how I'm feeling, why I'm feeling this way. Just really the sense of relief knowing that I'm not the only one that's fucked up like the fucked up in the head. So um yeah, it's great. Like I'm actually kind of blessed I went through that darkness but found a way out at the same time. Like I didn't stay in that dark hole that I was in, but if I didn't go through all that stuff, I feel like I would have never have found what I have found today. So
I love that, man. That
yeah.
was really
No.
well put. And, I never felt like anybody even cared to listen
Yeah.
until I got to recovery.
Yeah.
Like it was just like a series of people waiting for their turn to talk all the
Totally.
time. And, I had, like, I could literally count on one hand the couple confidants I had in my life, and one of them literally he overdosed, and so that he was gone. But yeah, okay, Mr. Andrew, recovery teaches that honesty is not a confession of weakness, but a declaration of worthiness. In what moment did you speak your truth and finally feel seen?
I mean, that's kind of a loaded question, man.
Ooh.
Addiction is kind of like forever trying to meet our needs in ways that will forever not meet our needs. I had to get honest real quick, man. I mean, I when I sat in these rooms to begin with, I wasn't hearing it. I just wasn't hearing it. I wasn't hearing the message. I wasn't hearing anything. They brought H&I in, and that kind of started something for me. H&I's hospital and institutions. They brought these gentlemen that were clean into our facility to speak with us on Friday nights, and they look good, they smell good, they acted like they should, like men, and there was no angles, and they were dead honest, man. They were telling us some stories that like blew my mind. There was one guy up there talking about how he was addicted to be watching Mexican beheaded videos, that he would do his DOC and he would literally run home and watch all the newest Mexican beheading videos, and like his eyes got all white. Like it was crazy, like dead honest. And it scared me almost. It scared me, but it showed me like that guy had nothing to gain by coming in there and sharing that shit with us. But he gained everything from that. Like he was free. He freed himself, and he was what I think like 5 years clean, and he was freeing himself currently by telling us that story, by telling 75 inmates how freaking crazy that he was, right? And I knew there was something in the water. I knew I had to get honest. I knew I had to get vulnerable. I knew I had to cry. Look, if you don't ugly cry in your first year a couple times, you're not going to stay clean long term. That's my opinion. I know you ugly cried a few times, haven't you, Austin? Where you
Oh
just
yeah.
where like you're like even your mom wouldn't recognize you. That
Oh
ugly
yeah.
cry, were like, that's not my baby. That's not my kid.
Oh yeah.
And if you don't do that, if you're that means you're not getting honest. You know what I mean? I had a couple guys that really cried. I'm talking cried for hours on my shoulders in recovery in when I was in that facility, and it allowed my heart to connect with theirs. Man, it rolls right into like honest sharing is the antidote to our disease thinking. Right? You're telling me that me coming out here and sharing my feelings honestly is my medicine today? Like that's my drug of choice is sharing. Like that's what I need to make me feel better. And not only that, it's going to maybe help somebody along the lines that was scared to share their story. It's going to help them too. Man, this is an amazing program. This is such a cycle of good, healthy living, living by these spiritual principles. And we don't gain these spiritual principles if we don't work the steps. Because you're not just going to come in here and listen to all the spiritual principles, look up definitions, and go, "All right, that's my jam now." No. So
If only it was that
no,
simple.
if it only was that simple. Got to get real. Got to get real, real nasty, real grimily honest
Yeah.
to push through those things, man. And because if you're not honest, I refer to this a lot, Austin. What are we doing if we're not going to wake up and be honest with everything, especially now that we're coming out of this recovery thing, into this recovery thing, coming out of this disease? What are we doing? We're playing a video game.
Yep.
We're just playing a video game. And look, in the game of life, Austin, there is no like pull the old Nintendo cartridge out, blow it off, and put it back in, put this cheat code on, and go back to level 6. We got one life. It's one meat suit.
Yep.
When we're done, we're done. There ain't no bringing it back, going into the tube and getting back on level 6 and go fight Bowser again. It doesn't work like that.
No.
So, gotta get honest,
Nice.
man.
Okay, recovery teaches that honesty is not a confession of weakness, but a declaration of worthiness. In what moment did I speak my truth and finally feel seen? Well, my step one felt like my first moment of truth. I don't know if I felt seen by anybody but myself at that point. Like I think when like it wasn't like everyone else was like, "Yay, Milan, you're fucking powerless and you're like life's unmanageable." There was no parade, right? And everybody else was pretty much in their own little ego bubble at that time too. The detox in first few weeks. It's like everybody's real high on themselves, but like opposite of high. They're like real grumpy on themselves. They're like, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
feeling like shit. I'm fucking powerless. I'm admitting my life's unmanageable, real unmanageable. In fact, mine's the most unmanageable because I got pride still." But,
Yeah.
but so that was what I would say the first one. But I never had the tools like these steps are. And doing my first step for in options was like revelatory to me. Like it was a revelation of who I was to me. And like that was the first time that I really saw me. I was like Barry Blame Alito. I was like, everything could be your fault, Austin. And if it wasn't yours, it was Andrew's, but it was never mine.
Yeah.
All my problems were someone else's makings. Like I've said it before on this show, when I wrote out my list of resentments, I think they told us to do like 6 or 8 or something in options. Well, I wrote out 24. I was already planning for the lineup of sorries I was going to receive from these people when I was done this step 4 thing because I had no clue what it was. Like I thought, okay, man, I'm going to write out this chart and it's going to be so justified. Like, this guy will have no choice but to come and apologize to me. So will my wife. So will my daughter. So will my mom. So will my sister. And then I'm like, oh, it's me. And then it's, oh, just wait again, it's me. Oh, it's kind of me in the same way. Oh, it's
Yeah.
really a lot of me. And I'm like, okay, could you guys line up to the right? And one at a time, I'm gonna have to make some amends. Just give me a few months, but I'll make it there. You know, like
Yeah.
it was, uh, it was for sure that moment that I got those tools and went through that was like that was the most humbling and freeing experience that I've had in my life for
It was.
myself.
Yeah.
You know, like it was awesome. And I had the opportunity, you know, I got to do my step five with Adam there, who I felt really safe with already, just from our friendship and our kind of kindred musicianship there, and I felt really safe saying it all, and you know, and it was, I dreaded it a little bit, but it was immediately the step five was just immediately amazing for me.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to check in. What time are you available to, Austin?
I gotta head out probably head out like 10 minutes or so.
Andrew? Okay, so
Same.
why don't we just do a lightning round? So what I
Okay.
do now is I set up the timer. So do you have another question, Austin?
But I only had those ones,
Okay,
unfortunately.
no,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Uh,
So it'll
I
be
got one
Andrew.
if you want me to.
Yeah, yeah, we both got some, so we're probably going to get through like three here. The question gets asked, we get 1 minute on the timer to respond, and
Okay.
it's called lightning round. Okay, Andrew, ask me.
All right. So, what does living life on life's terms mean to you now compared to when you first got here?
Okay, life on life's terms to me before was like life, you could have your terms, but we were going to bargain a little. Like it was literally like, I think I got an angle here where life is just going to kind of be like I want, but we're going to make life think it's their terms. You know, like I was manipulating it so heavily that I couldn't even see that it wasn't the way I wanted. And now it's pretty much one of my life missions of acceptance and surrender, where it's just that I realize that my only key to serenity is for me to surrender trying to control life. You know, the Harry God box is my best friend. I just added to Harry God box this morning. And yeah, I'm going to leave it there.
I love that. I love you. Forgot love in there though. Sorry, you forgot love.
Oh,
But
I
that's
get
okay. That's okay. All right, Austin, you ready?
Yeah.
What does living life on life's terms mean to you now compared to when you first got here 1 year ago exactly?
Well, before it was either like my way or the highway kind of thing. If things didn't go my way, I'd always be like, "Why is this happening to me? Like this isn't fair." Like just basically felt just my ego and felt just felt like I was special and like, oh, it should be going my way all the time. And if it didn't, I would make you pay for it. But now it's like I just try, like, just realize that I don't have control of all these things now, like, especially people and the places and then things that happen in everyday life. I just like, try to tell myself, let it go to level up my growth and just accept it for what it is. And things will work out the way they were supposed to. And just, it feels a lot more freeing that way. Um, it's definitely work in progress, but I just keep trying to build that up day by day, and because constant repetition carries conviction.
Love that, man. That was perfect. All right, so I'm gonna answer my own question. What spirit or what does living life on life terms mean to me now compared to when I first got here? Well, there was, life. It was life on Andrew's terms when I first got here. Like I said, I had been taking that self will piece and just kind of flinging it around like a like a bag of rocks in my active addiction. And so now living life on life's terms today is living life on his terms, man. I got to give it up, man. When I find myself in an ungrateful spot at any time during the day, I quickly realize, and I have trained myself to realize that I've taken some of that self will back, whether I know it, whether knowingly or unknowingly. And I've gotten really, really comfortable with the prayer piece. So I pray, and I get my answers that way. You know what I mean? I have another addict that I'm in a relationship with, and she's in the rooms, and we pray every single morning, every single night, for what we need, and we get our answers that way. And so that's life on life's terms to me is giving up that self will constantly, constantly. Sometimes I got to give it up 20 times during the day, man. because I don't know what to do with it. I'm reckless. All right.
Okie dokie. This year, you've become fluent in hope, Austin, the language of possibility spoken by those who refuse to give up. What future can you now envision that once felt unreachable?
Um, that I can live a happy, peaceful life full of joy and excitement, and that the possibilities are endless if you put your mind to it. Um, I feel like there's goals you set, like there's goals I can set in my life, and it's just once I reach those goals, it's just set new goals and just keep growing and keep striving and keep thriving and keep learning, be open. And that one quote I really like, it's not about the destination, it's about enjoying the journey along the way and becoming the person, becoming a better version of yourself day in and day out, and not worrying about the future, not worrying about like the destination, just enjoy the ride. So, and I just living in the present moment is really, really key, honestly, to try to like say the past is history and the future is a mystery and the moment is a gift. And that's why it's called the present.
I
Yes.
love that. Awesome. This year, you've become fluent in hope. This last 3 years, Andrew. The language of possibility spoken by those who refuse to give up. What future can you now envision that once felt unreachable?
Wow, that's a great question. So, I have my living clean tells me if I'm willing to move towards my dreams, a lot of times I blow right through them and I don't look back. And so as long as I stay willing to move towards my dreams, and I don't have any like grandiose expectations, you know what I mean? I set attainable goals today, which is very important to me. I used to set unattainable goals. You know, I want to win the lottery. I want to have $1 million house and have the model girlfriend. That's not what it's about. Hold on pain ends, hearing other people's experiences is where the hope shot that I got when I came in here was unbelievable. It kept me here. Again, hope and love are the only two spiritual principles that we can give to each other. And I was throwing that shit when I got in here. I'm getting off track. I have no idea what the question was. So what I want to say is forgiveness is the final form of love. So I've learned to forgive a little bit, and I don't really know what my grandiose thing is going on, but I love you guys, man.
Yeah.
What future can I now envision that once felt unreachable? Simply put, joy and serenity and sobriety. You know, I said it a million times on this show, like, I did not know a sober person till my late 30s. And I was never in a group of happy, sober people until I went to options at 51. So, like, I had no vision that there could be this joy and serenity and a great life in sobriety. And now it's like I can tap into that every day. I might not be there all day long, but I am certainly there part of every single day. I have like a pretty freaking good joy and serenity quotient in my life. Like I feel pretty lucky to be part of this program. And that was something that I just never ever thought. So now I believe it's time for us to sing Happy Birthday
Birthday
to
to
you.
you, badass.
Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to you,
you.
Austin
Happy
M.
birthday,
Birthday,
dear
dear Austin M,
Austin.
our new friend on the
Happy
podcast.
birthday to
To
you
you, young
and
man. Good
many
job,
more.
bro. Hey, come
Dude,
on,
Thank
thank
you.
man.
you
Let's
for
go.
sharing today with us. And
Thank-
Austin, if you met yourself coming into the program today, what's the one thing you would tell them after 1 year in the program?
That just there is hope and there is a way better way of life. Just be open and be willing and be honest. Honestly, that's the way to do it. And just listen,
Listen to that man right there.
listen.
Yep.
Listen to that man right there.
That's amazing. I'm grateful. I'd love to have you back on another time if you want to come back on, Austin. I
Proud of
feel
you,
like
man.
you've done awesome. I'm so proud of you. You know, you always had that recovery fire in your eye ever since I've known you. You always had that little smile and the twinkle, and I was like, this guy's got it, man.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate
Proud of you,
Andrew,
bro.
I love you, brother. And
Love you
guess
too.
what, everybody? Tune in next episode for
Bye,
more
guys.
recovery fun. Bye-bye, everybody. We
Happy
love
birthday,
you.
Austin. Happy birthday, bro.
Please help
Thank
us
you.
help others. If you'd like what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan South Okanagan Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.